If you do not master exposure, you are relinquishing so much of the control you have over what kind of photos you take. Exposure is one of the ways that you can control the light that comes through the lens into your camera. How bright or dark your subject is in relation to the rest of their surroundings. Nowadays, exposure is so easy to control, but it's also so easy to just let the camera do it for you automatically. A camera automatically exposes by taking the entire image and making it a mid-grey. Knowing that, when you're in a situation where your subject is in very different light to the surroundings, you realise that you have to adjust your exposure to expose your subject the way you want to. So let's think of it like this. If I was in a room that was mainly dark grey and there was a white dove in the corner of the room, do I expose for the grey or do I expose for the dove? And I would argue you expose for the dove, if the dove is the subject. So maybe if I shot the dark grey wall, or especially if it's a black wall, the auto exposure would make that wall grey, and therefore the dove would go so white that you'd lose all details in its feathers and any differentiation from its wings to its body. It would just be a white blob. So when you're thinking about exposure, I always think of it that you're only concerned about the subject of the picture, not the picture. I mean, I'm well aware that, people I speak to, a lot of people are unaware that if you're on your phone and you hold your finger on the screen where the thing that you want correctly exposed is in your frame, you drag down to make it darker, up to make it lighter. If you're in a place where there's, say someone's in the snow, you're photographing someone in the snow and they're wearing, a blue suit and they're standing in the snow. If you use automatic exposure, the snow will go grey and the suit will go dark, possibly even black. So again, what you do in that situation is you would put your thumb on the subject and you would lift it up until the snow looks like snow and the suit looked like it was meant to look. It's an incredibly simple device and it changes your pictures dramatically, and a lot of people don't even know it's there. There's a practical example that we've shot where we were walking through New York and it was sort of late afternoon and there were shards of sunlight breaking through the skyscrapers. And what that gives you are these big shadows and then just shafts of really bright light. And what I did is I kept placing my subject, Isa, into that bright shaft of light. And what I did is I exposed for her in the brightness. And what it did is it made everything around her went jet, jet, jet black. And it created these incredibly contrasty but beautiful photographs where she's exposed perfectly and everything around her is so dark that it focuses all the eye and all your attention just to the subject. And I think that's a really good example of what we're talking about here. It's an essential tool to any professional photographer and a really, really accessible, simple tool to everybody that's learning. It's easy to think that you've not got a photo at times, and so, you can do this afterwards, but you can often, if you've taken a photo in a hurry and you didn't have time to change your exposure, go into your editing and you have a second crack at getting your exposure correct. The latitude on digital cameras and on phones is so great that you can really do a lot of this work in post-production if you don't get it first time round. Better to do it on the camera, but if you fail to do that, then you can do it in your edit. Sometimes. You must trust what your eyes see. There's a lovely technique I have, which, because cameras don't have the latitude that our eyes have. Our eyes are like the most incredible cameras in the world. So a camera sees more contrasty than our eyes. So I was taught when I was really young that if you squint at any image, If you squint at a situation, that's pretty much how a camera picks things up. So you look at contrast, details and shadows, you get a much better picture of what a camera actually sees if you squint your eyes to look at it. Really simple bit of homework for you. Find a dark background and put one of your friends in it, take their picture and get the exposure correctly for them, not for the dark background. And then do exactly the same against a white background. On the black, you're going to have to darken the exposure, and on the white background, you're going to have to lift the exposure. So go and try it yourself. It's super quick, super easy, and absolutely invaluable.